The village of Elderglen lay perpetually under a cloak of deepest indigo once. Like all places, it had known the glittering tapestry of the night sky, the comforting wink of familiar constellations, the sweeping brushstrokes of the Milky Way, but years ago, the stars vanished, snuffed out as if a giant hand had smothered the heavens. Only an oppressive, starless blackness remained, casting the village into a profound, silent gloom. Children grew up hearing whispers of the vanished lights, their Elderglen faces etched with the sorrow of memories fading faster than the last traces of twilight. Liora, a girl with eyes that seemed perpetually searching the empty void above, felt the absence like a physical ache, a hollow space where wonder should reside. She spent her evenings on the moss-covered roof of her cottage, a worn astronomy book open on her lap, tracing the outlines of stars she had never seen. Whispers spoke of the starlight thief, a figure shrouded in myth and fear, dwelling high in the treacherous Obsidian Peaks that clawed at the dark horizon. Some said he was a vengeful spirit, others a fallen sorcerer consumed by greed for celestial beauty. Liora, however, felt a strange pull towards the mountains, a conviction buried deep within her young heart that the thief wasn't simply malicious. Her grandmother, before passing, had spoken of starlight not just as decoration, but as the very breath of hope, a gentle energy that sustained the soul's quiet fire. One crisp, utterly dark evening, driven by a yearning stronger than fear, Liora packed a small satchel with dried fruit, a flask of water, and her grandmother's locket, and set out towards the forbidding peaks, guided only by an internal compass pointing towards the impossible. The climb was arduous, a journey through razor-sharp rocks and chilling winds that moaned like lost spirits. Darkness was absolute, broken only by the faint, unreliable glow of luminous moss clinging to crevices. Doubt gnawed at her, but the memory of her grandmother's stories about the warmth of starlight on skin propelled her forward. After days of treacherous ascent, she found it, a hidden cave mouth, not dark, but pulsing with a soft, internal radiance pushing aside thick, thorny vines that seemed reluctant to let her pass. She stepped inside. The air hummed, thick with a scent like ozone and crushed moonflowers. And there, in the cavern's heart, sat not a monster, but a man, ancient and bent, his face a landscape of deep wrinkles. Before him, cupped and trembling, skeletal hands, glowed a swirling, liquid constellation, a handful of pure, stolen starlight. His name was Silas, and his voice was the rustle of dry leaves. He didn't threaten Liora. He wept. He spoke of a time long past when a terrible blight, a creeping shadow born of deep sorrow, threatened to consume his own valley. In desperation, he'd used forbidden magic, snatching fistfuls of starlight to combat the darkness. It worked, but the cost was catastrophic. The stars, ripped from their celestial moorings, fled the sky entirely, leaving the world bereft. He'd been trapped here ever since, the stolen light a burning burden he couldn't release, fearing the utter annihilation its absence might cause, yet unable to bear its lonely brilliance. The starlight in his hands wasn't greed's trophy, it was a prison of his own making, a luminous guilt that had slowly eroded his spirit over centuries. Liora approached slowly, her initial fear dissolving into profound pity. She saw not a thief, but a broken guardian drowning in unintended consequence. She sat beside him on the cold stone floor, the light from his hands casting dancing shadows on the cavern walls. It's beautiful, she whispered, her voice barely disturbing the humming air, but it looks heavy, like holding a heart that isn't yours. She told him of Elderglen, of children who had never seen the moon's companion stars, of elders who forgot how to dream, of the pervasive chill that had settled into the very bones of the world. She spoke of her grandmother's belief that starlight belonged to everyone, that its true magic lay not in hoarding, but in sharing its gentle, hopeful glow. Silas listened, his ancient eyes fixed on the swirling light, tears tracing paths through the dust on his cheeks. A profound silence settled, filled only by the soft thrum of the captive stars and Silas's ragged breathing. Liora gently, slowly, reached out her own hand, not to take, but to hover near his. She didn't speak, her presence was her plea. Silas looked from the starlight to Leora's earnest face, illuminated by its borrowed radiance. He saw the reflection of the lost sky in her wide eyes. A shudder ran through his frail frame. Then, with a sigh that seemed to release centuries of solitude, he nodded. Together, their hands trembling, his ancient and gnarled, hers young and steady, they lifted the handful of stolen light. It felt impossibly fragile, Like holding smoke and moonlight they carried it, this precious, stolen breath of the cosmos, towards the cave entrance, the light growing brighter, almost singing, as they neared the open air, stepping onto a high ledge overlooking the vast, dark world below. Silas and Liora raised their joined hands high. The swirling starlight surged, not exploding, but unfurling. It streamed upwards like liquid silver, like 1,000 luminous sighs finally set free. It didn't just fly, it sang, a silent, celestial chord that vibrated through the very fabric of the night. High above, a single point of light flickered bravely, then another and another. Pinpricks became beacons, constellations wove themselves back into existence with breathtaking speed. The Milky Way spilled its luminous river across the infinite black velvet. Elderglen, far below, erupted in gasps and cries of wonder as faces, young and old, turned upwards for the first time in decades, bathed in the gentle, miraculous glow of the returned stars. Tears of joy, glistening like captured starlight themselves, flowed freely. Silas stood straighter, the crushing weight lifted, the lines on his face softening as the true starlight bathed him. He wasn't young, but he was free. Liora watched the heavens, her heart overflowing with a joy so profound it ached. The stars hadn't just returned to the sky, they had returned hope to the world. Silas chose to remain in his high cave, not as a thief, but as a humble stargazer, a silent witness to the restored balance. Liora returned to Elderglen, forever changed, and on clear nights, when the villagers gathered to marvel at the heavens, they often saw, just for a moment, a particularly bright cluster of stars near the peak of the Obsidian Mountains. They called it Liora's handful, a warm, shimmering reminder that even the deepest darkness can be healed, and that sometimes, the bravest act is not taking, but letting go, allowing the stolen light to find its way back home. The gentle radiance above was a lullaby for the world, a promise written in light that hope, once lost, can always return.